Welcome guys, in this 2-minute tutorial I'm gonna show you how to get consistently good looking interviews. Now the examples I'm gonna show you guys in this video are all from a documentary that I shot in various parts of Europe with minimal equipment. If you guys want more info about this project or the setups, then as always check the links in the description of this video. Alright, let's get started. So the first setup we have was done inside a medieval courthouse. As you can see, it was very dark in there and we didn't have much access to actually to power, like electrical outlets. Not to mention the lighting of it there obviously wasn't very nice. They just had a couple of tungsten fixtures up at the ceiling. But as you can see, with the right lighting and also the right color grading, you can make almost any location look nice. This was filmed on the Sony a6500 and I actually had the camera on a gimbal because again it was a quick setup where I didn't have much time to even set up a tripod. Anyways, let's start this tutorial and the timer. The first light I'll usually set up is a Keylight, so in this case I use the KTV Boltzen light. It's very small, portable, and again can be powered off of batteries, which is great when you're traveling to different locations and you don't know if you're gonna have access to power or not. And these lights can be powered off of those little Sony NPF style batteries. And as you can see, onto that light I mounted a softbox. This is this pop-up softbox. Again, makes setting up really quick. And as you can see, the shot right away looks nicer because we have that nice soft kind of a key light on its face. The second light I set up was the Luxi Cello, which is again a very portable light and it can also be powered off of batteries, which is great. Plus this is a full spectrum RGB light, meaning you can turn this to be pretty much any color you want. And because in this case I put it kind of opposite direction of the key light, I was using it sort of as an edge slash hair light on my subject here. And it was great that it's an RGB light because I could quickly, without using any gels or anything like that, just change the color of that light. So as you'll notice, the different setups that I did that I'm going to show you in this video, I pretty much always use that light as the edge light. Then I had another Luxi light set up. This is the Viola. It's the same light, it's just a bit smaller. And that was put sort of there in the background to kind of shine onto the wall there behind our subject. As you can see there, I have my assistant kind of adjust the light a little bit. And as you can see, with the right placement, it just right away brings up the details there in the background. And even though the light itself is actually shows up in the shot, I left it there because it just, you know, it's so out of focus, you can't really tell what it is. And actually I kind of like that little highlight there that's out of focus, the bokeh there in the background. Just again add something visually a little bit more interesting to the shot. And here's how the final shot looks with a little bit of color grading. I figured why finish the tutorial here when I can show you how you can apply the exact same techniques in various different scenarios and locations. And also I wanted to share a few extra tips with you. You'll notice that I always use the X-Rite color chart whenever I do these kind of interviews. This helps me when color grading, but it's especially crucial when you're shooting on more than one camera, so you can kind of color match the different cameras together. And I actually have a tutorial I did a while back about how you can color match completely different looking cameras and make them look identical in the final edit. Now right after I shot this interview, I just simply reused the lighting and you know, we had to shoot another interview in that same location. But just to sort of slightly change this shot from the previous one, I adjusted my angle a little bit and then I also adjusted the color of that hair light there in the back, which was again the Luxi Cello LED RGB light. Here is another interview setup, and as you'll notice, even though the camera angle is different, and again we have a different location, I use the same techniques. So this is the final effect, and then also this is how it looks with the final color grading. And in this setup I actually had two cameras running. So my A camera was the Sony a6500, and then my B camera was the Panasonic GH4. And the lighting is almost identical to the previous setup. So as you can see, this kind of technique, once you learn it, you can quickly reuse it and still get different looking shots, but making sure that all the shots look good. The key light once again is the KTV Boltzen light with that pop-up softbox, and when I turn that on, you can see how it looks. Right away, definitely, you know, makes a big difference on her face. Just, you know, you can see some shape to the face. You are adding some dimension. And that's another tip I'll give you guys, is you kind of always want to make sure that you have some shadows in the face, so you have some difference between the brighter and the darker area of the face. And it's also usually a good tip to have the shadow side of the face more turned towards the camera, meaning the key light is always going to be on the opposite angle of your camera. And the next light is again the Luxi Cello as the edge/hair light. In this case, I just kind of adjusted the color to be kind of this warm amber color, and that's because I wanted to match the actual practical lighting that we had there at the location. So you'll notice that in this setup I actually didn't even bother setting up the third light, because that lamp in the background provided a nice kind of out of focus kind of bokeh there, plus it actually illuminated the location, and it just made the shot look a little bit more interesting. Now, whenever you show up to a location like this, doesn't mean that you can just, you know, set up your lights and your camera and that's it, you're done. We actually did take the time to readjust the position of the chairs. Like I said, that lamp was actually slightly in a different position, but I put it there in the background to make sure that it was visible in the shot, and that, you know, just again, it provided something interesting there visually in the background. As you can see, I used the X-Rite color chart, and I always make sure that it's visible clearly in both of the cameras, because I know in post I have to try to match those cameras together. And again, if you guys follow my tutorial that I did before, then this is done very easily. So even though this wide shot was shot again on the Sony a6500, and then here's the close-up that was shot on the Panasonic GH4 and a completely different image profile, as you'll notice the shots match perfectly. And this next setup, as you can see, follows the exact same rule. Keylight, you know, there's that softbox there on the opposite side of the camera, so the left side now, and then on the right side there behind our subject we have the Luxi Cello light set to kind of this warmer kind of colors. And this was filmed inside this museum. Didn't have much time to really scout out a perfect location for this, so I just noticed this wall with these interesting looking drums. So I knew that if I have that behind my subject and just kind of throw it out of focus, again, it's just going to add something interesting visually. Here is another interview I did that was actually done outside. It was a pretty bright day, even though it was overcast, but also because we were shooting inside a courtyard, the light was a little bit stronger, more from the camera's left side. So the right side of the face of our subject here was actually not very well lit, so again I used the Boltzen TV light with that pop-out softbox, but in this case it wasn't a key light because the key light is actually the overcast sky, but I used it as a fill light from the side here where the wall is, because that side of his face was a little dark. The second light I had is again the Luxi Cello, and that one was set up behind him, and this light provides this nice sort of an edge lighting to kind of add more definition to his face. Here is another outside interview setup I did, and again I used the TV Boltzen light, in this case without the softbox, and it was in the spot focus, so I could get this really nice and strong hair/edge light. And the Luxi Cello was used from the front to kind of add a little bit of a fill light on his face. And I also, in this shot, actually set up the Sony a6500 on the iFootage Shark Mini slider, and I just set it to kind of go back and forth. And this allowed me to have this nice and very smooth but continuous motion throughout the whole interview. And then the second camera again was the Panasonic GH4 set up on sticks, and then here's how the final thing looks when you color grade it and match the two different cameras. Alright, that's it. Hopefully you guys found this tutorial useful. If you did and you want to show some love, then leave a comment below and play with that subscribe button. Now if you really want to give back, then make some sweet love with that bell notification button. Anyways, my name is Tom Antos, and as I always say in filmmaking, there are no problems, just a lack of solutions. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next tutorial.